You're not doing anything dramatic. It's an ordinary moment, almost boring. You wake up, phone within reach, and before your feet even touch the floor, your thumb already knows the route. A few taps, a few swipes. The room is quiet, the light is soft, and your brain is still foggy enough to believe this is harmless. You tell yourself you're just checking the time, maybe the weather, maybe a message. But the screen opens like a window, and suddenly you're standing in other people's lives before you've even entered your own. A friend is on a beach that looks like a wallpaper. Someone you went to school with has a new house with perfect white cabinets and a backyard that screams adulting. A couple you barely know is celebrating an anniversary with a caption that sounds like a movie trailer. Another person posts a gym mirror photo with the kind of discipline you promised yourself you'd have by now. You keep scrolling, not because you enjoy it, but because it feels easier than deciding what you want your day to be. And the weirdest part is how calm it looks from the outside. You're still in bed. You're still just waking up. No one would call this a crisis. It's just a small routine like brushing your teeth. But something in you tightens anyway. Not enough to stop scrolling. Just enough to notice that the day hasn't even started, and you already feel like you're late. The thought doesn't shout. It whispers. It slips in between swipes like it belongs there. I should be further. Not in a dramatic way. More like a quiet math problem you don't want to solve. You don't even say it out loud because it sounds ungrateful. You have blessings. You're surviving. You're doing what you can. But the thought is still there, tucked behind everything you post and everything you don't. You see someone's promotion and you don't hate them. You congratulate them. You might even mean it. But your mind adds a footnote. I could have done that by now. You see someone's relationship and you don't envy the person. You envy the ease, the way it looks like their life is moving forward without resistance. You see someone's body and you don't feel disgust, you feel distance, like you're watching a version of yourself that you missed the chance to become. Then the rationalizations start, subtle and polite. They got lucky. They had help. They're probably miserable behind the scenes. Or the one that sounds responsible. I'll get serious after this season. After work calms down. After the kids are older. After I have more time. It's not a lie. It's a delay disguised as wisdom. And it doesn't feel like comparison at first. It feels like information. Like you're just staying aware of what's possible. But inside, it's not possibility you're feeling. It's judgment. Not of them. Of you. The thought you don't say out loud isn't, I want that. It's, what's wrong with me that I'm not there yet? What makes this so powerful is that it didn't arrive as a problem. It arrived as a habit. At first, it was entertainment. Then it became a break. Then it became a reflex. A moment of boredom in line turns into 5 minutes of scrolling. 5 minutes becomes 20. 20 becomes your default transition between tasks, between emotions, between you and your own life. You didn't wake up one day obsessed with other people. You just got used to living with a tiny audience in your pocket. A constant stream of highlights, achievements, glow-ups, vacations, marriages, side hustles, new cars, new bodies, new confidence. Your brain learned to treat it like normal life, even though it's not life. It's a curated resume of moments. And because it's constant, you stop noticing the effect. You don't say, I'm comparing myself, the way you would say, I'm drinking too much. You just feel a low-grade dissatisfaction that follows you around, a background noise of not enough. Time passes quietly with this. Weeks, months, years. The people you watched keep evolving because you're watching their highlight edits. Meanwhile, you're living in the middle of your own draft, the messy part, the part nobody posts. So the gap feels larger than it is. The scoreboard feels real because you're looking at it every day. And the most dangerous part is how normal it becomes to start your morning with a silent evaluations of your life. You're not weak for it. You're human. Your brain is doing what it was trained to do. Measure yourself against what you see. The issue is that what you see is engineered to keep you measuring. Here's the chapter you tend to skip. The cost doesn't show up as a disaster. It shows up as absence. The workout you don't start because it feels pointless next to someone else's transformation. the business idea you don't try because you already feel behind the people who are crushing it, the conversation you don't initiate because everyone else looks like they already have their tribe, the photo you don't take, the class you don't enroll in, the application you don't submit. Comparison doesn't just make you feel bad, it makes you hesitate. And hesitation doesn't look like failure. It looks like I'll do it later. It looks like planning without moving. It looks like waiting until you're ready, even though ready is a feeling that rarely arrives on schedule. Over time, something quietly fades, your sense of momentum. You start to live in reaction instead of creation. You consume other people's lives and call it inspiration, but the inspiration never converts into action because it's mixed with shame. And shame is heavy. It makes even small steps feel like you're dragging a weight. The scariest part is how your standards get distorted. You stop comparing your real life to your own potential, and you start comparing it to someone else's highlight reel. So your progress looks tiny, even when it's meaningful. Your consistency looks pathetic, even when it's improving. Your normal struggles look like proof that you're not built for success. Nothing explodes, but the future you could have built becomes harder to reach. Not because you failed, but because you kept postponing your own life while watching somebody else live theirs. Most people decide the problem is motivation. They think, if I were more disciplined, I wouldn't feel this way. Or, if I were more confident, I wouldn't compare. Or they turn it into a personality flaw. I'm just insecure. And then they start fighting themselves, trying to force confidence like it's a mood you can switch on. But that's not what's happening. The issue isn't that you're weak. It's that you're being exposed, daily, to a distorted environment that your brain was never designed to process. Your mind treats repeated exposure as truth. If you see 10 posts a day that imply everyone is winning, your nervous system starts to act like you're the only one stuck. Not because it's true, but because it's familiar. And you misunderstand what comparison is. You think it's envy. It's not always envy. A lot of the time, it's grief. Grief for the version of you that you imagined would exist by now. Grief for time you feel you lost. Grief for choices you didn't make because you were surviving. That grief shows up as irritation, numb scrolling, or a quiet bitterness you don't want to own. So you try to fix the symptom. You attempt a new routine. You binge motivational content. You promise yourself you'll lock in tomorrow. And it works for a day or two, until you scroll again and the same invisible verdict returns. Still not enough. The pivot is realizing this isn't a discipline problem. It's a perception problem. You're judging your real life through a lens designed to make other people's lives look cleaner than reality. The misunderstanding is thinking you're broken, when what's broken is the measurement. If this story were really about social media, the solution would be simple. Delete the apps and move on. But most people already know that, and the feeling still comes back. Because the real story is deeper than your screen time. It's about self-trust, about whether you believe your life is in your hands, or whether you feel like you're watching it happen from the outside. Comparison becomes a habit when you don't feel grounded in your own trajectory, when you don't have a clear relationship with your own promises, when you've told yourself, I'm going to change, so many times that your brain stopped believing you, not because you're hopeless, but because your history with yourself has been inconsistent. And this is why comparison hits harder in your 30s and beyond. You're not comparing fantasies anymore. You're comparing timelines. You're measuring where you are against where you thought you'd be. Every highlight you see feels like a reminder that time is moving, and you can't rewind it. Underneath the scrolling is a question your identity keeps asking: can I count on me? Because when you trust yourself, someone else's success doesn't threaten you. It becomes information. It becomes proof that growth is possible. But when you don't trust yourself, that same success feels like a verdict. It feels like evidence that you missed your chance. So the goal isn't to become someone who never compares. The goal is to become someone whose life feels so real, so owned, so directed, that comparison stops being the place you go to figure out who you are. Your self-image shifts from I'm behind to I'm building, not because the internet changed, but because your relationship with yourself did. The shift that changes the ending isn't a big announcement. It isn't a dramatic detox. It's one quiet decision. You stop using other people's outcomes as a mirror for your worth. You decide that your life is not up for vote every time you open an app. You decide that you will measure yourself by follow-through, not by optics. That decision sounds small because it is small. It's internal. It's you catching the moment comparison tries to turn into a sentence and choosing a different meaning. When you feel that tightness in your chest after seeing someone's life, instead of spiraling into "I'm behind," you let it become a signal. This matters to me. Not "I'm failing," just "I care." Then you do the simplest thing a grown adult can do, and also one of the hardest. You return to your own lane. You redirect your attention back to one promise you can keep today. One honest step, not to prove anything to the internet, just to rebuild your credibility with yourself. It might be as small as closing the app and taking a 10-minute walk to clear your head, or opening a note and writing the one goal you've been avoiding in plain language, or sending the email you keep postponing, or doing the first set of the workout, not the whole transformation. These are not productivity hacks, they're identity repairs. A second example, when you see someone's success and your brain says, "You're late," you respond with, "I'm not late, I'm next." Not as a hype phrase, as a commitment to keep moving, even when your progress looks boring. The ending changes when your attention stops feeding the scoreboard and starts feeding your own story. And you're back in the same ordinary moment. The phone is still in your hand. The feed is still moving. Nothing in the room changed. But you can feel it now, the split second where your life quietly gets negotiated. Because comparison isn't just a feeling, it's a contract you sign without reading. It says, "I will let other people's edited moments decide how I feel about my real day." It says, "I will treat my progress like it's embarrassing until it looks impressive." And the saddest part is that it doesn't have to destroy you to win. It just has to keep you slightly dissatisfied, long enough for your own life to start feeling like a waiting room. That's how it works. Not with collapse, but with delay. You don't lose everything. You just stop building. You hesitate on the call. You postpone the gym. You don't start the plan. You don't try the thing. Not because you can't, but because somewhere deep down, you've started to believe it doesn't count unless it looks like somebody else's highlight. And over time, that belief becomes identity. You begin to mistake watching for moving. You confuse knowing with becoming. You learn other people's routines, other people's wins, other people's aesthetics, while your own life stays unclaimed, sitting right there untouched, waiting for you to feel ready. So here's the uncomfortable truth. The feed doesn't steal your future. It just keeps borrowing it, 5 minutes at a time, until you look up and realize you've been a spectator in the only life you actually have. When you put the phone down today, what version of you stands up? The one that keeps measuring, or the one that finally starts living?